Good morning. This is Arlan Suderman, Chief Commodities Economist at StoneX. It's about 8 a.m. coming to you from the trading floor this morning on Friday the 13th, and world affairs continue to impact the markets. Let's talk about it this morning as we saw Israel mount a massive strategic strike on Iran overnight. Now, as we look at the reason for the strike that Israel gives right now is that the United Nations had declared Iran in violation of its non-proliferation agreement that it had been a part of. And the International Atomic Energy Agency had indicated that Iran had enough weapons grade uranium to make up to possibly 9 nuclear weapons, and some would say as many as 12 nuclear weapons. And as I indicated in my commentary, for those of you who read my commentary yesterday morning, this dramatically increased the risk of a strategic strike by Israel on Iran to take out those nuclear sites. And it did so last night, or at least took steps toward it last night, and continues. And it indicates that it will continue this strike until it accomplishes its end task. Now, last night's task, we know based on some reports that maybe as many as 20 senior commanders in Iran have been killed. Maybe as many as 6 or more nuclear scientists have been killed. Israel combined the airstrikes with 200 Israeli fighters striking at least 100 targets within Iran, focused primarily on these nuclear and military strategic targets, not really impacting its crude oil production or transportation facilities to this point, but focusing on hitting radar sites, places of drone launching, missile launching, etc. Some of these strategic sites is the primary focus on it, and it will continue to do so. Also had an on the ground presence apparently as well to make some of these strikes. Now, what we're waiting for next is what's the next response. We've already seen Iran launch a wave of drones toward Israel, but Israel's defense mechanism has apparently intercepted the drones with little damage reported at this point. In fact, by early this morning, they'd already declared an all clear for citizens in Israel, saying that the drones had all been eliminated that Iran had sent. But we anticipate that there will be more. Even though Israel has weakened Iran significantly, Iran still has some capability, and its proxy groups around the Middle East, while significantly weakened, still do have significant capability, and that may extend to other parts of the world as well. Now, crude oil prices surged overnight on the news, surging more than 14% in the WTI market on fears that this become a broader regional battle that takes out crude oil production and or export capacity in the region. The primary focus initially goes toward the Strait of Hormuz between Oman and Iran, through which about a fifth of the world's total oil consumption passes. Iran has also previously threatened oil infrastructure in other neighboring countries if those countries yielded airspace to Israel for an attack, and that also puts a focus on Saudi Arabia, which has oftentimes been a target of Iran. Another key to watch would be if Israel were to hit the Karg Island. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That handles about 90% of Iran's crude oil exports, but thus far Israel remains focused on nuclear and military targets and not on oil infrastructure. Let's keep in mind that President Trump's sanctions on Iran had already significantly reduced the oil flow out of Iran. As such, this initial attack has thus far likely done little to change global crude oil balance sheets. Rather, the market is putting in a risk premium for retaliatory strikes by Iran and its proxies might do in the region, and how it might spread the war to other countries in a way that impacts the production and export of crude oil, most notably in Saudi Arabia. Uh, Now, we've seen crude oil prices back off several dollars from their highs, but still remain quite volatile. Another interesting twist to this conflict is that Iran has become a major weapons supplier, particularly drones, to Russia in its war on Ukraine. And that too may be curtailed by this strike. Now, it's not just energy that's impacted. Food production in the world also potentially impacted via fertilizer supplies. Now, it's a slower developing type of a threat, so I don't expect to see as responsive of a market response, and it's fertilizer be led more by a cash market response rather than derivatives that the funds could invest in. But Iran is the number 3 exporter of urea fertilizer in the world, which is a supply of nitrogen at 4.8 million metric tons a year, and the number 7 exporter of anhydrous ammonia. Now, many other major nitrogen producers lie in the region as well, some of which transport their fertilizer through the above mentioned Strait of Hormuz. Qatar is the number 2 urea producer at 5.2 million metric tons, followed by Saudi Arabia at number 6 at 4.2 million metric tons, and Oman, number 7 at 3.9 million metric tons. And we should also mention that Egypt just yesterday shut down its production of urea due to natural gas being shut down out of Israel. Now, that's something that oftentimes happens. That's not all that unusual, but the timing here is not necessarily very convenient. We probably, again, won't see the fertilizer market explode higher like the crude oil market, but this is something to watch as we go forward. And Israel's also a major exporter of potash fertilizer, coming at number 5 in the world. But again, right now, we don't have any indication that's in imminent danger. This all comes on the heels of a recent Ukrainian attack on one of Russia's largest nitrogen fertilizer production facilities there in Russia, of which we still don't know the details of how production there was impacted. Now, thus far, we're seeing a general risk-off theme in the markets that aren't directly impacted by the war, with stocks trading lower, many markets trading lower. The trade war does continue. President Trump is indicating that he expects a string of trade agreements to emerge over the next couple of weeks. I think it'll probably be early July if we're going to see those before we see anything significant. President Trump needs that momentum right now as we head closer to the end of the 90-day window. He has indicated that now the 90-day window where they roll back tariffs with China didn't start until a month later, so that goes into August. But the indication this morning is that he does not plan on extending that window. We don't, and he's previously indicated he didn't plan on extending this 90-day window either. We'll see. That may have been a negotiating statement. The question has been, when will President Trump and President Xi of China meet to perhaps have a more notable agreement between the two? And right now, it looks like that may not be till the APEC conference in South Korea in November. Originally, I thought that maybe President Xi Jinping might be coming to New York to address the United Nations when was it, in September, but now it looks like Premier Li Qiang, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I'm probably not, I apologize, may give that speech instead. Now, one other news item this morning that we're anticipating is the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, is expected to release its renewable volumetric obligations for the biofuel program, possibly as early as this morning. That could reshape domestic demand for corn and soybeans and soy oil in the years ahead, either positive or negatively. Now, the market's bias is that it could be strongly positive for soybeans and soy oil demand. As I've indicated previously, we think it could be solidly positive. So we could get an initial disappointment illustrated in the market, followed by, oh, well, this ain't so bad after all. Maybe this is strong. But we'll see going forward. But that will also be significant news that could come out as early as this morning as well. But I wanted to get this video out to you to discuss because it's having such a big impact on the markets going forward. Overall, like and subscribe if you want to continue to get more updates from the trading floor, and I'll be back with you next week with more updates on how this is all unfolding. Until then, have a safe and happy weekend.